Good afternoon, friends. I hope this reaches you well. Chelsea Collie here, and I do have an amazing guest today. Welcome, Miss Katie Rain.
Hi, Chelsea. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor. And I just love your energy. Ever since I met you on the Truth Tour, I was like your beam of light. So I'm so happy to connect with you, sister.
Me too. I was so kind of sad because I wasn't going to make it to the LA Anaheim event, and that's where you were speaking. And I didn't even know that you were at the Dallas event until you sat down at our table. And I was like, oh, you're Katie! Like, I don't know why I didn't recognize you. You like sat down at your table and you're like, I am Katie. And I was like, your story is just so interesting, and it's like really easy to fall in love with you. It's you're a fresh face, and you really lead with your heart, and it's just a super interesting story, your background. So if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, should I play the video first? Because that kind of wraps things up, and then I can go a bit more into it.
Let's do that. Yeah, that sounds great.
Right.
And I'm just going to make sure we're on YouTube. And you really lead with your heart, and it's just there we go. Okay, we're good.
Share screen. Oh, interesting. I can't do the optimize for video clip. Why is that? Oh, yeah, there we go. I think I got to do this.
Okay.
Wait a second.
Yeah, so this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about her background, and she's going to show us a little intro video that kind of summarizes things up. And if you need me to share it, I can too.
Yeah, I don't know. Usually you can click this little box, optimize for video share. So I don't know why that's not working. Because last time I did, oh wait, here we go. Actually, I think maybe YouTube updated. Let's try this. Oh, this might work.
Make sure there's no lipstick on my teeth this time.
Oh, great. Unsupported format. That's not going to work.
It's on your YouTube channel, right? Do you want me to?
Yeah, maybe share from your end, because
okay. Sure, no problem.
It'd be a lot easier, because I've done this before without the optimized video, and it's really it's hard to like the sound doesn't match up and it's all construed. So probably from your end it's much better.
Sure, no problem. I saw that it was on your channel. Okay. Share screen. Share. And this little box is in the way. Okay, you're seeing this, right? You can see this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right. There
Floor
was
is
no
yours,
sound,
my
but that's
dear.
okay.
Hello,
I don't know why. But so we'll just kind of.
Mark Atwood.
What's your middle name?
Oh,
Louise.
Mark, get off our show, Mark. Okay, the floor is yours, my dear.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, so just a quick, I guess, background on me, so people can kind of understand where my story a little bit more. I grew up in a small town on Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, Canada. And I was a pretty odd child, as many of us are. This name. I would talk to the trees, the waters, the wind, the rocks. You know, I'd be telepathically in communication with everything around me because everything has consciousness. Everything's made of water, even the ethers. And I didn't realize I was doing this at the time until later on in life. But I would do like quirky little things like, you know, bring little offerings to the base of the trees and stuff like that. I would often escape through books. So I had a lot of chaos around me growing up, and I'd go into a book to kind of escape my the chaos around me. And when I did that, I realized I would have like tunnel vision. I could block out every single noise around me, and it would just be like blinders up, and I could hyper focus on whether I'm talking to a person. Oh, do you want me to start again? Okay, I'd hyper focus on anything that I would choose to hyper focus on. I could basically focus on one channel with not having any distractions around me. So I realized that I was a little bit different in terms of that ability. Like there could be a bomb going off next to me and I wouldn't even know. And I would just do weird things. Like sometimes I'd walk around with my hands like this, and my little sister used to call me T-Rex. And then later on, I realized that was a muscle reflex from like past lifetimes as a pilot. So moving forward, my father introduced me to surfing at 12 years old, and I was instantly hooked. Anything every day, all I wanted to do was get into the ocean and be on my surfboard. And that was like my happy place, my sanctuary. And so I did that as much as I could throughout my teenage years, and would compete at a national level. And that was basically my dream, was to pursue this, but that kind of was unrealistic at the time. My parents were putting pressure on me, like most people my age, to like pick a profession, go to university. I had no idea at 17 what the heck I wanted to do. And then what dropped into my consciousness was pilot. Oh, a pilot would be cool because I like traveling. But I was more intrigued by the aerodynamics of an aircraft and how the mechanics worked. Like I was more interested in how this thing stayed in the air, this hunk of metal. So I decided to apply to pilot school, and I got a full paid scholarship to study at a 4-year integrated airline transport pilot school in Toronto, Canada. But prior to that, I was considering the military. I was always really a fearless child. I loved adrenaline. So I thought a fighter pilot would be really awesome. But then as I tuned into the energy of this structure, because I could always tune into the energies of a entity, corporation, or a group or a person, I had that ability to tune into the frequency of it. And it was quite low, and I was picking up a lot of darkness around this. And then I realized, okay, if I went into the military, I may have to, be deployed and kill basically innocent civilian women and children. I just couldn't do that. I consciously couldn't. So that was out the window, and I decided just to go to civilian school. So I went to pilot school. The first 2 years, there was just some things that I discovered that were really irritable to me. One was the noise of the plane, the reverberations of the engine, and I just couldn't stand like all these moving parts of metal, and just you're in like this archaic metal box. And my idea of flying was like to connect to the land, and what I remembered about flying was completely different. And I did have a slight fear of the technology. I realized within my my last year of school, I had 4 fellow students who died randomly in plane crashes. Out of the entire history of my flight school, it was like that 1 year, ironically, that we had these incidents. And so that was kind of, you know, I didn't like the frequency of airports. I couldn't stand them. They were totally in dissonance to nature. And then also my neighbor growing up was a longtime airline pilot with Air Canada, and he was in his 40s, but he looked like he was in his 60s. So I was already intuitively picking up that these technologies just weren't healthy for us. And I just didn't want to work for a corporation. So I decided to like throw in the towel and just take a step back and take a break. But when I did that after graduation, I told myself, I will return to flying when the technologies are a bit more advanced and the engines are silent. And so after that, I just decided to travel and surf because that was my passion. I lived in multiple places around the world. I had I was in an abusive experience in my mid-20s that created a spiritual awakening in myself. And ever since my mid-20s, I've been on like basically a pretty strict spiritual path, reconnecting to my abilities as a child, reconnecting to my 9 senses, because we have 9 instead of 5. We can only see 0.0035% of the light spectrum with our naked eyes. So I worked on fine-tuning all these abilities again. And I came back to myself. I reconnected to my soul essence, and why I was here. I was guided to go see a psychic in my mid-20s after this traumatic experience. And the psychic told me, you know, you won't find what your mission or your purpose is until you're early to mid 30s. So just chill out, have fun, and, you know, enjoy, you know, because you're not going to know until your early 30s. And I was like, okay, sure. So fast forward, my early 30s, which was a year and a half ago, I'm in this, I was doing earth grid work. So doing etheric ceremonies to clear certain areas of the planet. And doing a lot of that kind of energy work. And I met this lady called Julie, and she recognized me right away. She's like, we've had a past life together or something. You're like a sister to me. And she instantly connected to my frequency signature. And when the pandemic began, I always had a really clear sense of knowing, like claircognizance, predicting, I could foresee future events happening before they happen. And I knew exactly when the pandemic happened that it was going to get much worse. And I was just like, you know, I'm gonna get out of Canada because worst comes to worst, I'd rather stand with the patriots in middle America than live on my knees. So screw this, I'm out. And I basically left and went across the border. But before that happened, Julie was like, we need to meet in person. We have to meet. I'm being guided to, and she's extremely intuitive. We need to meet in person. So I went up to Kamloops, Canada to go see her. And she never knew anything about my history, didn't know I went to pilot school, none of that. And we went to this place called Grey Wells National Park, where there's this massive waterfall, and we're standing by the waterfall. And all of a sudden I see half the face of the waterfall and half the rock, like just break off and come back together. And it was like a time warp, and my ears, it felt like I went underwater. Like my ears plugged up, like the density shifted. And I go to her, or like sometimes things just come out of my mouth. And I told her, when I felt just like when I was younger and they would take me off planet. And then she goes to me on my right, she's like, you're here to pilot a plasma ship. And the minute she said that, my whole body was just reverberating and just a huge psychic hit. And I just, it was like my whole life flashed before my eyes. And then everything up until this point of how I felt and why I did certain things made sense. Why I had those feelings in pilot school, why I had certain experiences as a child, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then she also had a vision of me on the ship inputting information. And there was a galactic commander, off-worlder, standing next to me. And he was like, basically telling me, congratulations, you've finished your training. And so she didn't know I was a pilot. She didn't know any of that. And so that was kind of like mission activated. I knew 200% that that's what I came here to do. And then since that day, which was July of, not last July, but the July before, it's just been nonstop, like information streaming in. I reconnected to my Andromedan contact, who's part of my soul family, who was with me as a child. He would project his consciousness into my stuffed bunny. And so he reconnected to me, but he couldn't come to me until I start remembering my mission on my own, because they don't want to, like, because of free will, they can't really step in, and like they want you to come into your full sovereignty and your power, and to remember these things on your own, so they can guide you in subtle ways. But so it was like everything's a timestamp. So he came to me immediately a week after I remembered my mission. And since then, it's just been nonstop. He relayed me to the guardian of my ship, who is an inner earth being. And then just more and more information that's been coming through sequentially. So the ships are basically, and tying back to the surfing, I was so obsessed with surfing because surfing's the nearest thing to operating a plasma ship, because you're in this super hyper focused brainwave state when you catch a wave, and you're harvesting plasma at the same time. So it's very similar to how you're operating a ship. And many of the ships use the waterways. Not many people know this, but the ocean has thousands of times more electricity and plasma than fresh water. So they prefer to use the ocean waters as navigational to navigate versus in the air, because it's easier for them, and they can recharge the ships that way. And there's already underground intergalactic facilities. That's why only 20% of the oceans are mapped, which is total BS. There's, they know everything. They know there's a lot to the oceans that we've been lied about, and we're going to start seeing that there's underwater cities. There's tons of development facilities underneath the oceans that so there's a lot of truth in the movie Aquaman. There's a lot of truth to that, so there's little nuggets in there. So yeah. I can go on and on, so just let me know.
Can you talk a little bit about the grid work, because that is so interesting? And you were working with Julie on that?
Yeah, so Julie's
kind of working with her on that before you even knew your mission.
Yeah, she's part of my star family, Julie. We reincarnated and came down here together. So my overall mission is to basically resurrect this ancestral ancient plasma ship that we're coming back into resonance with. So it's in a slightly higher density. All the information coming through is through the 9 senses. So it's not just my physical 5 I'm using my whole intuitive capacity. And that's how we're meant to live life. And that's how the indigenous tribes lived life. So we have to start work. It's like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. So in order to move forward in this ascension process, everyone needs to reconnect to these abilities, because everyone can telepathically communicate. Everyone has clairvoyance, claircognizance, all these different abilities. And so Julie, I work still very closely with her. So I don't work by myself. I work as a unit. I have a whole crew behind the scenes where we are these interviews are just like a little minuscule aspect of the work I do, because I was told to start sharing, because not all the crew members of these technologies have waken up. And so my Andromedan contact, Auntie, told me to speak. You need to speak. Every time I talk to him, he's like, you got to speak more. I'm like, okay. And so, but behind the scenes,
we're meant to wake others up to their mission.
Yeah. And when I did come out publicly a few months back, there were waves of people coming in just from hearing me speak that were being activated. So I've seen firsthand that whatever I was told is manifesting or happening in front of my eyes. So it's all being confirmed. But we work a lot of the information that comes through, we work as a collective. And so we bounce psychically, you can say that my whole group behind the scenes is in tune with their 9 senses. So they're all intuitives or psychics or whatever. So we bring information together, and we're all quantumly entangled, working together in the dream state, multidimensionally, in all different facets. So with Julie, she's connected to my star family. She's connected to my Andromedan contact, Auntie. So when I speak to her, it opens up a channel, and almost more like information just comes streaming in. And she's the one I'm going to go visit in Canada shortly, which I'm really excited for. And so this grid work that we were doing, we would do a lot of etheric ceremony, clearing some of the satanic overlay. So that basically what they've done is they've anchored down the natural ley lines of the planet, which is the meridian line. So like as within, so without, we have meridian lines in our bodies that our energy field operates through, and the life force flows through us. And same thing with the planet. So they've overlaid a lot of the dumb systems, for example, are underneath, are directly in parallel to these ley lines to anchor down the energies. So, you know, they've totally messed up this planet as much as they could. Even like there's satanic monuments like the obelisk systems, like which are basically inverted acupuncture needles, you know, pinching the ley lines, pinching the life force. Dams, we should never be damming our rivers, because that's like the artery of the planet, and that's a flow of the life force. So everything is interwoven in the web of life of our planet, and we need to enhance the life systems and allow the life force energy to flow. So a lot of the grid work is connected to that, clearing. Now I've been working with, I was guided, divinely guided to Huna Flash, who's a Maori elder, and I'm now doing physical ceremony over the land in liaison with the Earth Alliance, Space Force, and the Galactics up above us. So I've been doing what we call cracking ceremonies, which is basically clearing the satanic overlay from certain gridlocked areas to open up the field to allow the higher fractals to come in again. So we're restoring the blueprint of the planet by doing these clearings. And then also working on the new Earth Stargate system. So there's a Stargate system that's directly what Huna Flash was. His contract in this lifetime is to bring in the new Stargate system. And so we're not going to be using this old Orion Stargate system anymore. There's a new one developing, and the terrestrial constellations are meant to match the celestial. So the stars in the skies, the frequency signatures are meant to match the frequency signatures on the land, because the continents are conscious beings. And the indigenous tribes have always known this. And so we're going back to basically the time before undistorted light, which is the time of Lemuria. Post Lemuria, everything, this is when the dark factions came in and infiltrated the Archon groups, the Orion group, the reptilians. So we're restoring it back to be prior to distortion. So
is this like Atlantis?
No, Atlantis was distorted. So this is prior to Atlantis.
Prior to that.
Yeah.
So I heard you talk about Stargates. Maybe we can touch on that for a second. But before that, you were talking about the ceremonies, right? And how you kind of, I don't know what the wordage, but you bust that satanic overlay that they have on these points. Can you talk about some of the places that you've done this grid work and maybe give us an example of how one went?
Yeah, so I can talk about one we recently did at the end of July was Las Vegas. I got invited to go to the Truth Tour, and I was being told at the time, tuning into the energies of Vegas, I'm like, oh, wow, it's still really gridlocked. Because I've been doing, basically, I travel nonstop. I go where I live my life by the seat of my pants, and Spirit tells me to go basically a week before. And I just like, it's hard for me to plan anything long-term because of that. So I was guided to not only do the Truth Tour, but also to do a clearing there. And as I was tuning into it, I was picking up that the underground dumb systems was still active. And so I called in, like I said, I don't work by myself. I work with a whole team. So I called in, Huna just means keeper of the light. So I called in six of the Hunas, and they all flew in like on a dime to Vegas for this ceremony. And where we were staying was right next to the Strat. Now the Strat is connected. It's a massive obelisk system that connects, all these, like even the one in Seattle, the one in Toronto, they're basically massive obelisks that are pinching the ley lines. Yeah.
Those are all connected.
And their antennas too. And so ironically, we were staying, the hotel we were doing the conference at was right outside of this strat structure. And so we did the cracking ceremony around this strat. But as I got to Vegas, I was the Earth Alliance Galactics were communicating with me. And I was getting information that the dumb system was still active underneath, and that they were basically waiting for us to do the ceremony so we can clear the satanic overlay and open up the field to the higher fractals. And the reason why we were working in parallel to them is because there was still negative factions. Like, so basically none of the negative ETs can exit this atmosphere or come in. It's completely sealed off, but there are still, they can only clear out certain dumb systems at a time, right? They can only do so much. And you can only imagine the earth is like honeycombed out. Like these dumb systems are everywhere. And so they have certain portions sealed off, and they have, but they're still negative ETs down in these dumbs, the information I was getting, but they're fully they're like in prisons or sealed off, like they can't get out. But they wanted us, they were preparing to flush the dumbs. I was getting the information coming in, and they manifest these black plasma portals on the surface, like, and there's videos of these online, but they can exit out through these portals that they manifest. And so us, by clearing the surface and opening up and we work with the galactics in the sky, because they can't do anything without our permission, because of free will. So I'm directly connected to my star family and to much of the Earth Alliance. I work alongside them, and we basically they kind of do the work. We just tell them what to do and they come in and do it. So what we did was we opened up the field, cleared these codes, this overlay. So it would be very difficult for these black portals to manifest. And so everything was in congruence, and they came in 2 days after we left Vegas. Oh, going back more to the ceremony, we did the ceremony on a Sunday morning. And as we walked out the doors, there's a rainbow in the middle of downtown Las Vegas, and it's raining for like 1 minute, and there's a big mothership right out front. So like these things, you get kind of confirmations as we were walking around. Yeah, and the feather. And then as we're walking around the strat, this lady is coming towards us with full on inverted pentagram satanic shirt, like basically says worship Satan, coming in the opposite direction. So it's just like so far out. And so you get all these little subtle signs, because that's how the spirit world communicates to you. And so we call in everyone when we do these ceremonies. We call in the ancestors, we call in the galactics, the benevolent galactics that are assisting us right now. And the elementals, like the elementals big time want to help us out and be acknowledged, because they're guardians. That's their primary role, is to be our guardians and stewards of this planet, and they do watch over the children as well. So 2 days after we did the ceremony, after we left the area, the whole downtown strip was flooded. So you can't get any more confirmation than that. So so there's been a couple occasions where we did stuff like that, and we were working right in congruence with them. So clearing, and this affects directly the consciousness. No, everyone's like focused on waking people up, but we have to also consider that these areas have dark overlays energetically, and it's anchoring down the consciousness of the people who live on the land. And so the more we do these earth grid clearings, the more it's going to open up the consciousness of the collective as well.
Can I see your ring on your finger?
Oh,
that's cool. I just bought this, and it's like,
oh wow, awesome. It's the same. Wow. I had a friend that made this for me. She forges silver, I guess you'd say, or
this is like a little knot.
Oh, nice. Like a little Celtic knot.
And you're Katie Rain. It's Raine, and I told you that we're soul sisters because I'm Chelsea Lane. Laine.
Totally. Yeah, we're all finding each other.
Yeah, you have such an interesting story. I thought it was so interesting, like when I met you at the Truth Tour, it seems like everybody just comes to talk to you about their problems. Is that normal for you? It seems like that happened in Dallas, and then it also seemed to happen in Lubbock. They were like coming up and telling you about what they need help with and everything, and you're just
funny
like
you
a little
notice that.
spiritual healer.
Yeah, I guess people feel safe around my energy. So I get
Yeah.
that all the time. I've gotten that for a really long time. People just come up to me and open up. And yeah, it's and I just, I speak only through experience. So I don't, then that's the thing, like I've never really read about galactic stuff or watched sci-fi movies or any of that growing up. And it's only basically straight from my guides and my star family where I received the information. Like I don't listen to much third-party stuff at all. So like everything, the only way I just speak directly from my own experiences and what has worked for me, and that's what I share. So yeah.
When you talk about tapping into frequencies, so you're talking about you can do that with like a person or an entity or a corporation or like a city.
Yeah.
How do you do that? I mean, how does that kind of work for you?
Everything's made of water. Rocks are water. The ethers is water. Plasma is water. Everything is conscious to an extent. And so you can literally project your consciousness into anything. You can project it into a chair or a beam in a structural beam, and you can scan it and you can start asking the structure questions because you can connect to the consciousness of that through the waters of that structure, because everything is composed of super consciousness. And so you can ask, like you can tune into a chair and see if someone maybe was really rough with it, or didn't really take care of it. So you can do, we all have these abilities, and we just forget our superpowers, but we don't need, like technology is great, like it complements, us moving forward, and we will be using it moving into the future, but we have to go back to these organic abilities because they are more accurate than the synthetic artificial intelligence that we've constructed as well. So and that's Lemuria. Lemuria was when we were super tapped into the organic. We were utilizing these abilities at full capacity, and we were able to communicate with all life systems on the planet and actually be the stewards that we came here to be.
Absolutely. Would you mind talking about the 9 senses? Because there's a lot of people who are interested to hear about that.
Yeah. So the 9 senses. So basically you have the physical 5 senses. With our naked eye, you can only see about 0.0035% of the light spectrum. So there are beings walking amongst us that we're not, that are living right here in the here and now. Elemental beings, definitely. It's a different, some people can see them with their naked eye, and we're starting to come into resonance with them again. So we will see them more and more. Watch the Waters has multiple meanings. Not only are these ships going to come out of the water, but the waters is what is going to be of the utmost highest frequency on the planet first. So you're going to see water dragons manifest in the water. You're going to see 5th dimensional water creatures, elemental beings, and it's going to be in the waters first before the land or the air, because it's a higher frequency. And so we have our clear knowing, which connects to clear sentience, so the emotional body. We have our clear cognizance, which is being able to tap into any. So time happens simultaneously. Time doesn't exist in a linear fashion like we're programmed to. None of the galactics look at time that we've been programmed to look at it. It's more of a spiral. So it comes down to resonance. And when we come into resonance to meet an event, that's when we experience it. So it's really, everything is up to us and to clear our field and, clear traumas, wounds. If you get triggered by someone, that's a gift because that person is showing you what the aspects of you that you haven't looked at within yourself yet that needs to be transmuted and cleared. So with the senses, the more we do this inner work, the more and practice using these abilities, the more they open up. And a lot of this is it's subtle messages that will come in. So you have clairvoyance, which is clear, like seeing through the inner eye. And a lot of people don't realize this, but the inner eye is just like our imagination. It's the same channel. But the thing is with the imagination, you can for example, if I want to paint my room, I'm going to like imagine what that looks like. And I put that intention out there, where when you get a clairvoyant hit or image come through, it's very spontaneous. And it's like, you'll just get it like a flash. And that is a message. So to be able to decipher what's like your controlled intention versus what is coming in spontaneously, that's your clairvoyance. So you have telepathy, which is inner hearing. We're all telepathic. We can communicate to any being on this planet telepathically, and we can also communicate to our galactic brothers and sisters telepathically. So going back to feathers, why did a lot of the indigenous cultures wear feathers, like the feathered bonnets the chiefs would wear? The migratory birds, like the Canadian goose, the feather enhances telepathic abilities, the telepathic channels. So like if a Canada goose loses its flock, it can communicate to the flock and come back to it. So the indigenous tribes knew about this, and that's why they'd wear the feathered bonnets, because the chiefs would have enhanced telepathy, and so they could just broadcast out what they want to tell the tribe, and the tribe, he didn't even need to talk to the tribe.
Wow.
So yeah, so and we can all do this. Like how I communicate with my galactic contacts is purely through telepathy, including the inner earth Ishkla, my contact Ishkla, who's the guardian of my ship. And so, yeah, so clear, so time doesn't exist. So you can tap into any timeline, past, present, or future. That's clear knowing, clear cognizance, and then clear sentience, clairvoyancy, inner eye, and clear hearing.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
And everyone, for what's my strengths may be different for someone else. So, someone might pick up smells, smells too. They can smell interdimensionally. So it really just working with practicing all these subtle channels. And how I started was having a meditation practice, whether that's going for a walk and practice, or you can just sit, or you can walk, or anything that is going to have one point of focus that's going to help clear your mind. And then you just focus, like pay attention to the thoughts. Like if you're being bombarded with thoughts in your brain, practice clearing it, because we should be living at the 0 point, the here and now, every moment, having no thoughts at all. Because when we do have these messages come through, you'll notice them. It's not going to be all kerfuffled and jumbled. And that's how the MK Ultra mind control operated too, was through like, that's how they hijacked a lot of the with the mind control, because we didn't have control over our thoughts. We forgot that, oh, we can control this, and our brainwave frequencies we can control too on command. So
MK Ultra kept our thoughts so busy on other things that we weren't able to get the downloads and stuff.
Yeah, into this like fight or flight, active brainwave state, and so just constantly, like, a lot of these smart TVs, for example, they're really flashy, and that keeps you in that brainwave state, and you're being, it's programming, and there's technologies out there that manipulate the nervous system. This off-planet Archon technology, actually, we've been dealing with this for the past week and learning a lot about it, but there's actually a lot of the truth in the truther community. There's a lot of AI hacking, where this Archon control is very prevalent. So this is all coming to the surface. We have a working group that's going to expose it and help people to have control over it moving forward, because it's creating a lot of division amongst us and just kind of slowing things down. It's nothing to be scared of, but it's definitely something we need to be aware of and that we need to speak about.
Yeah, it's a big concern for a lot of people because, we're all trying to figure out who we can trust and not. So when we see that the infiltration is happening in the truther community, yeah, it's tough to know what to do about it or how to handle it.
Yeah, and I think just the more we talk about it, like the thing is, once you learn how the dark operates, you can have control and power over it. So exposing it's number one. What are the characteristic traits of someone who is being controlled by this off-planet archon energy? Let's talk about that first. Narcissism, the label narcissism is actually a smokescreen to off-planet archon control. So why not label it a disorder? There's nothing to see here, and that's, you break down the words, it's right in front of our eyes. Like you have archon, which means, it's an ancient Greek word that means upper level magistrate or ruler, like an energy that's ruling over everyone. And narcissist, arc, you got arc, monarchy. So you got it in there too. Some people are calling these advanced plasma ships arcs, which I always, I always had a resistance to using that and adopting that word, because that's what the archons want us to call them.
Mm-hmm.
It all ties together. Yeah. People hooking into, all of a sudden bringing up these, ancient deities, and these ancient entities, like Enki and Enlil, and what other one was people? Oh, Yahuwah. So that's kind of all signs of some of this infiltration.
Gotcha. There's a question here. Thank you for that. Jen Quinsler says, is there anything we can do locally to help loosen grids around our local regions? Like dealing with the heavy energies in our cities.
Oh yeah, and anyone can do these clearing ceremonies. Like I learned how to clear them precisely through Huna Flash, because he went through the ancient mystery schools of the Maori. He was raised in ancient traditional ways, and they were well aware of all of this. And so he wasn't really brought up, indoctrinated, or programmed, because the culture was so strong for the Maori. And so he teaches how to do these clearings in a really precise manner. And so I follow his teachings, and that's what has worked amazing. And we get confirmation for the work we do after we do these ceremonies all the time. So I highly recommend people check his work out, because he's the real deal. And I have a story about him too, because when I went down to the US, the first time when I left Canada, the immigration officer gave me a really, really weird date on my passport. Normally, as a Canadian, we get an automatic 6 months. Well, he gave me like 7 months in 1 week, and he's just like, oh, by the way, I gave you a bit more time. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And it was February 3rd, 2022. And I was just like, okay, Spirit's telling me, pay attention to this date. This date's really important. And I was like, okay. And then my Andromedan contact was telling me I need to refamiliarize myself with the Stargate system. So I was like, okay, well, how the heck do I do that? And he's like, the right person will cross your path. I'm like, okay. And then, so a couple months go by, and I'm on YouTube, and I'm drawn to this video with Huna and Terabai Janine. And I instantly knew, I'm like, that's the guy that's going to teach me about Stargates. Like, it was just an instant knowing. And so I reached out to him and started a conversation. And so my time with February was approaching, and I had to leave the country. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to probably go down to Mexico. That's like, the best place right now for me. But I surf, so I was thinking about going to the Pacific coast, and Huna's based in the Yucatan Peninsula. But I was kind of like, oh, I don't know where to really go. And again, a week before the February 3rd, I'm just like, I still have no idea where I'm going. I just know I'm going to Mexico. I haven't booked any tickets. Call up Huna, and I'm like, Huna, I gotta leave the country February 3rd. And then when he goes, that's my birthday.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, I know where I'm supposed to go now. So I went down and spent some time with him, and it changed my life. And the community that I work with, a big chunk of it is he's responsible for. He's gathering all of these ancient souls together and bringing us all back together. So I do work extensively with the community he's formed, but I also have brought in a lot more. And we have various different communities right now, but they're basically all blending together in one amazing mixing pot.
Awesome. And then like to go back and answer her question, like she asked if there was anything that they could do, but like just going around and spreading your love and planting your light. And I actually go psh, psh, and I go and shoot people with my love.
Yeah.
Like some people will are having a hard day and I like send them some and then I go psh. The other day I went to the zoo and I was like giving love to my animals. And so I don't know if that helps or not, but
Yeah,
we
totally.
can always spread our love and light.
Exactly. Yeah. Anchoring, like, just go within and ask yourself, what is the best way to address this? And you'll get the answers. And everyone has their own way of doing it. So just pay attention and form your own, your own way of doing ceremony. Like it's the intention that matters. And yeah, just have fun with it.
Awesome. Okay. And then so we talked a little bit about the grid work and we even talked about how the obulus or like the stratosphere, the big towers and space needles and all of that are connected. And so do you want to talk a little bit about the Stargates, or I don't even know really what a Stargate is or what you would be doing with that?
As far as I know, they are they're access points to the planet. And they're basically points of extremely high frequency. So interdimensional travel is you're able to go through these gates quite easily. And it's up to us to keep them clear, keep them, like, protect them. And there's, according to Huna, 48 stargates of this new planet blueprint we're going into, which he calls Matea, which is the 5th dimensional planetary system. And there's a certain number on each of the continental, he calls them motus, continental consciousnesses. And so all borders are coming down. We're not going to really have any flags except for this one right here, because this represents all global military. It's not just about the US. And yeah, we're going to be going back to one world race, which is what we truly are. We're one, where we go one, we go all. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot to go into about Stargates. Some people like to overcomplicate them, but they're just really high access points.
Interesting. Okay, so what's now? What's next on your horizon, and what are you working towards now?
So one of my missions, so not only focusing on resurrection of these ancient technologies, so the majority of them are in the waterways, the oceans. The larger ones are in the Pacific. I was told that there's 33 in total that connect to this intergalactic mothership that's in our galaxy right now, and it's a intergalactic confederation ship. Roughly 20 is Earth-based, and the other 13 are sprinkled throughout the galaxy. We've confirmed 6 so far, 6 locations, one being off of Hawaii, 2 off of Galapagos Islands. There's one between the Vancouver and in the Georgia Strait, Vancouver and Vancouver Island, Canada, and there's one in the Gulf of Mexico. And there's one inland in Texas that the dark factions actually hijacked and tried to hack. And one of the, so I work with 2, so there's 4 main pilots that have the frequency keys. So our fields together form a frequency key. And we found 2 so far. So there's 3 of us. We're still looking for the 4th moving forward, because everything is going to be activated sequentially. And the one of the women who's a pilot to the ship off the Galapagos, she was like, I don't know why, like, I didn't do any pilot training in this lifetime. I'm like, what, why, how come you did that and I didn't do that, and she ended up doing a quantum hypnosis session, a past life regression, and she discovered that she was a Black astronaut many years ago, and she was most likely working for NASA, which was controlled by the Dark Faction, and she was actually the one responsible for taking apart that ship in Texas. She was part of that team. So, the Dark Factions didn't even stand a chance, because we were just spliced and diced in the timelines to basically intercept the whole process. So she knows how to put it back together. And so once these ships come up, we're going to be bringing them down to the inner Earth. So there's basically guardians. So they've been heavily guarded in the higher density. As far as I know, these guardians are inner Earth beings. Mine, who's named Ishkla, she's like in more dark skin, ancient indigenous race, long dark hair. And there's docking facilities already in place with inner Earth technicians waiting for these ships to come in. So as soon as we bring them up, we're going to be bringing them into the inner Earth, and then things will all get fine-tuned from there. So kind of like a pilot does a walk around, we'll be doing, they'll be teaching us, basically helping us to remember the process with that. So there's a whole, this mission is, it's just massive. It's getting bigger and bigger, and it's really exciting. Yeah. We have an amazing future. And not only that, but we're going to be building and designing sovereign intergalactic hubs to house these ships. So they're going to remain Earth-based. We're going to have communities built around the ships. And much of the malevolent hubs, because these structures are already in place, there's a lot of intercoastal malevolent galactic hubs already, like the coastline of Mark Zuckerberg's property. There's a frequency cloak there, and there's submarine docking stations underneath. And it was used as a hub. So we're going to be going in and clearing, so doing this grid clearing work. We'll be clearing the DOMs, transmuting the energies, and basically transforming these places into benevolent communities. And they'll be where a lot of the magnetic levitation ports are, because there's a whole inner Earth transport system that was used, where you can basically get from Los Angeles to New York in, I think it's like 10 minutes or something ridiculous. So we won't be seeing much, we won't be needing much air travel very much. We're going to be helping to transition a lot of the commercial airline pilots and the military to these heart-based technologies as well. That's going to happen in my lifetime. So yeah, we're gonna expedite, we're gonna evolve pretty fast here in the next few years. Everything is sped up in terms of the timelines. Yeah, so it's really exciting. I get clear visions. We're gonna have the giants. A lot of the giants are there's a lot of sleeping giants around the planet that will be waking up as well. These sleeping giants, they're kind of like in a hibernation mode. And they're an ancient race, Earth-based. As far as I know, some of them are like 50, 60 feet tall, but their essence is peace. So they're like peacekeepers. Giants we lived amongst giants, and that's one of the things they've lied to us about. We've had many giant races on the planet. So we'll be going back to that too. And not only that, but these ships have avatars that the ships are designed around. So we'll be leaving, I know I'll be leaving this physical vessel, and I'll be going into the avatar that's on the ship in order to pilot the ship. The vision I've had, they're kind of like blue. They're in pods. I've seen the pods, and I've seen the avatars, and they're really tall with blue skin. And they're about 10 to 11 feet tall. And so the movie Avatar, pay attention, because there's a lot of truth to that. And this is what the white hats are doing right now, is they're seeding the consciousness with this exposure disclosure mode. And a lot of the movies, Netflix, media, they're dripping out the truth of our reality. And there's no coincidence that, after, I think it's 12 years, Avatar 2 is finally coming out this year. And it's called Way of the Water. Watch the water, Way of the Water. And it's about, these water dragons coming out of the water. And then you have not only Avatar 2 coming out, but Avatar 3 in 2024 and Avatar 4 coming out in 2026. Really? So yeah. So, dragons are real, fairies are real. the elemental realms that exist, and we're coming back into resonance to meet them. And so we're seeing this great merge happening of consciousness. And we're going to physically see our galactic brothers and sisters soon, and the inner earth beings will be meeting. They'll be introducing a lot of the advanced technologies to us. They're already dripping it to the surface. And so, yeah, we're going to, like, the future is amazing. It's just like, we have kids that we work with. So I was guided a few months back to bring in the kids. And so there's kids that are part of our group, and we need to start bringing them with us and teaching them everything we know, because that's how the higher density races operate. The law of consistency, whatever you know, you pass down to your children, and then they know more. So the next generation knows more, and then the next generation knows more. And so we got to remember that they're wise souls in little tiny avatars. And so we've been working closely with a lot of the kids because they basically have full memory of their mission, and many of them are ready to go right now. They're like, they know what they came here to do. They just need the community to support them. And so they're teachers to us. They don't have any distortion or programming, and they remember everything.
I recently heard that like everyone after 2012 has been coming in as like a starseed and like these high dimensional beings. So pretty much anybody who's 10 and under right now is already one of these wise old souls. And was it you or someone else? I can't remember. Maybe it was you that said, this is how we know we're in this time, is because like these kids are coming now. Like it's almost like proof that we're in this time of transition. And so can you talk a little bit about, for the people who are like, whoa, like cognitive dissonance, like I just didn't want to be a slave to the system anymore. And now they're learning about like, the whole like secret space program. And it's like, it's a lot, like when you go from like just learning your whole life is a lie to this conversation. So can you talk a little bit about that or speak to that?
Yeah, I really believe in keep it simple, stupid. I keep things really simple, because on a spiritual level, things are simple. Everything's broken down to the energy level. So always take the higher perspective with something and try to look at it from multiple facets, because there's always, you may be having a negative experience in the meantime, but that negative experience, like, go above it, and there's a huge lesson in that, and there's expansion and growth in that. So it's actually a beautiful thing. It's a gift. And so I always try, I think of eagle medicine, and I kind of soar above the picture and detach from it emotionally, and look at everything from that kind of perspective. And ask yourself, what's the lesson here? So, keep everything real simple. Try to, I think, just like, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but just going within, you can go to a tree and find all truth. You can ask a tree any question, you'll get every single truth. A tree is an antenna directly to source. It's piezoelectric. So it's like a Tesla tower. So, you don't need to be, obviously you can get messages through other people. And if you're guided to watch a video, then watch it, but take what resonates and leave the rest. And you don't have to believe everything. Like, just start tuning into what resonates within you, and keeping in your heart space. The more you keep in your heart space, the more you can tune into that ability, because we're basically walking tuning forks, and we all have these abilities to discern like this. So, it's, some people here are just here to exist, like to spread light. They don't have a specific purpose, but to do that. So, don't beat yourself up. Don't be hard on yourself, because I used to be really bad at that. I still am. I find myself reverting to like being, beating myself up. But, I always have to remind myself, just take a chill pill, like you're doing fine. And don't get too far ahead of yourself, because then you'll start chasing your tail. And that's like, for me, I was like kind of impatient at the beginning. I'm like, I want to resurrect the ship now. And like, I'd be getting too far ahead of myself and just like screwing things up, really. But trust that everything is time stamped to happen when it's meant to happen. We have all the information that we need. Memory is an energetic imprint. So we have every single memory of all our past lifetimes and experiences contained within our field. But it's up to us. But the problem is this physical flesh suit can't access all of that because of the DNA. But as the DNA comes more and more online, it's like a switch, and it allows more of your light to come in, more of the information from your light body to come through and connect consciously. So you'll start remembering your past lives more and start getting, that's what a download is. It's just a memory. And you're accessing more of your light field, because we're light giants. We're literally we're massive. On an energy level. And so that's exactly what the ascension is that you're just accessing more of your light body consciously, and you're able to process it, and more of your brain capacity is coming online. But you can access these things anytime in different states of consciousness. But yeah, it's just basically go down the river. Don't try to swim up the river, just go down it and surrender to this process. And the most important thing is every single day, live your life to the utmost joy, excitement, and inspiration. And if you're not doing that, then make a change, because we're meant to be in those states of frequency all the time.
I love that. And also remember, yes, of course, they have lied to us about everything and have made us believe that we are these limited beings, living as little ants, and called us chattel and all this. But remember, they were building spaceships in the 30s. They had spaceships back in the 30s. So to talk about, spaceships now, 90 years later, actually, possibly our friend Katie here is going to possibly resurrect one for us. Maybe
not possibly, I am.
Okay, sorry, let's take this off. Right.
Know it.
Katie's going to be resurrecting one for us. It's not too far, And then also what you mentioned about it's not too far off. Even though they make us seem like we've lived in these little boxes, and then also what you mentioned about the light spectrum, we only see 0.0035%. So we don't even see 1%.
We're walking around blind.
Yeah, we're all walking around blind. So this is real, and these conversations are real, and and our imagination is even more real than we can imagine. And then Huna Flash is working on these portals, right? How many portals are there? And then how many has he worked on so far? Because I know that there's maybe 80 something portals in
48
the world.
48 Stargates.
48.
He's activated, I think it's 19 so far. The last one was South Africa. So he's got a lot more work to do, and everyone's invited to come along for these Stargate activations. So he doesn't know exactly where they're all at. He's being guided by the High Council. Calls it the Council of the Continuum, which is the Earth-based higher council, and they're the ones that he communicates with, and he's guided 100% along the way on the process. So
yeah, so Huna Flash has named and deciphered and figured out where 48 of the portals are, and they're activating them one by one, going there on physical location, and they're on 19 out of 48. So that's pretty exciting. And that's just imagine how much more is going to continue to happen as they activate all of these.
So that's the thing, we have so many people working behind the scenes. We got people working on mapping the whole grid system, on a multidimensional level, because it's not just linear straight lines, they arc. And the whales are tapped into this information as well. A lot of people don't know this, but the whales are extremely high dimensional beings with full memory, brain capacity. So they're literally like living, breathing libraries of the planet. And during this time, as humanity wakes up and we take our role as caretakers of this planet, which is what is meant to happen, they've been the temporary caretakers. And so they with their sonar system mapped out the entire ocean floor. And so they know where all the weaponry was dumped, all the pollution, everything. And they relay this information to the Galactic Federation. So they work directly with the Galactics. And so they got technology that we're going to see really soon. That's kind of like the inverse of a replicator. So you can literally beam up all this garbage and dissolve it to the molecular level. Back to organic matter. So we're going to clean up the oceans in like a month. Like everything's going to happen. Bang, 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 bang. Like everything's just kind of recalibrating and coming into place right now.
Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, everything you break down, everything you can break it down to the frequency level. So that's why we can regrow limbs and things like that, because in our energy field is the blueprint of that. And you just need the frequency of it to be able to regrow these things. So we're going to be utilizing these technologies moving forward. And you know, for example, in a garden flourishes with microbes. Like if you put microbes in a garden, it will flourish. And so you can take the frequency of microbes. You don't need the actual physical microbes. You just need the frequency of it. And you can input it in an orgone pyramid or a crystal and put the crystals at the corner of your gardens. And the plants will react to that frequency just like the microbes are there. So it's kind of like rife. You know, rife, you just need the frequency of it. You don't need the physical thing. So with these ship technologies that we're resurrecting, they have this type of technology where you can literally input certain frequencies that were taken out of the ecosystem to bring things back into balance.
Awesome. So can we program our own crystals like that?
Yeah. Because crystals, they're like memory banks. You can instill memory in them. So like in Earth, they don't actually have like, you know, the libraries that we have with books and stuff. They actually have crystals which have holographic information imprinted into it.
That is so cool. I was actually listening to something from Billy Carson yesterday, and he was talking about how like our DNA is storage and how you can fit like billions of years of information in like a drop of DNA. It's so crazy. And then like, so our whole bodies can store, I think it was something like 11.5 billion years, which is supposed to be how old the universe is or something. It's like we're so much more powerful than we know. And they actually have already they can actually put something onto the DNA and then download it from the DNA. Like that science exists. He even says they have science now that where holographs can like pick things up. So that's where we're at now. Like holograms can now actively pick up objects. So
Yeah.
it's super mind-blowing and exciting where we're going.
I know.
If we can get this like this evil archon energy out of the picture, because if there's this evil AI in charge of everything, then that's not that exciting.
It's nothing new. It's just always the AI has always been there, but now we're seeing it. So it's going to look like it's something new, but we're just starting to see it now and connect to it. And so and expose it. So it's been there for thousands of years. That's actually what created some of the part of the downfall of Atlantis, was this negative archon energy through the technology. So it's just another learning experience for us. And once we see it and expose it and learn how to get around it or basically shut it down, we're unstoppable. So and one thing, you know, it hooks into fear and ego. So that's why it's so important to constantly do your inner work and clear your field. And, you know, if you're being triggered by someone, then go into that trigger, that wound, because there's a source to that. and work through that, and release it in your field. But the thing is with the AI energy, it doesn't understand humor. So you can have fun with it, actually. Yeah. As long as you stay in your heart, love, and your, humor is a super high frequency, then you're good. You're untouchable.
Awesome. I do want to make a little video about the Billy Carson stuff that I saw yesterday, and I have a couple little clips, so I'm going to make a separate video about that. But there's one thing that he said, and then he's coming out with like a history, because they've proven that like the Anunnaki existed, and apparently this is what he says, and I just want to get your opinion on it. He says that the Anunnaki actually messed with our DNA to where like we live shorter lifespans now, whereas like in Bible times they lived up to like 1,000 years. And what he said they did, the Anunnaki, they put telomere caps on our telomeres so that we're not able to live these long lives, and that's why our lifespan is 120 years or less. What do you think about that?
Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that, for sure. The Garden of Eden was actually a laboratory where they were experimenting on the human genome a few thousand years ago, and Adam and Eve were the products of that. So this is, again, the manipulation with the Anunnaki. And so, yeah, we're just, all of our true history is revealing itself. We all know it. It's just remembering it. Because we've all lived through it. We've had multiple lifetimes on planet, off planet. So, it just, once we, the truth is going to come through no matter what. But like, once you get it, it's like, I don't know. For me, I'm more focused on moving forward. It's like, okay, I see it. Great. Awesome. Let's move forward and rebuild this planet. What do we want to manifest for the future generations moving forward? Because we want to make this like truly heaven on earth.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry I didn't ask if you had more time, because we're already 20 minutes over. So
that's okay.
Need to wrap it up, right?
I don't have anything lined up after this, so.
Okay. Well, I just want to say a big thank you. You're awesome, and you're heartfelt and loving and spiritual and positive, and I love it. And then at the same time, like, you're so diplomatic. Like, you're so like diplomatic is the word. Because there's a lot of yucky stuff going on, and you like you said, your eagle medicine, like you just rise above it, and you're like, what can we learn from this, and what's the best way to handle it? It seems like when there's a lot of like if men would come in and handle things more egotistically, and you come in and you're just a wise old soul, and you handle things with the good intention and the greatest positive outcome of many, is what it seems like.
Thank you so much, sister, for all the kind words. You're so sweet. I think once you rise above a situation, you see these energies play out. What this negative AI truly wants is division, for us to separate through fear or whatever. And so, I believe that no one's going to get left behind in this. And we're all, there may be some victims of this. People are in their ego for a reason. Perhaps they have wounding from childhood, from their mothers, or, there's all these different things at play. We got to be more compassionate and loving towards humanity and towards each other, because remember, we've been in thousands of years of enslavement and trauma that's been inflicted on us. So, it's I believe in holding out a hand to everyone, having a bridge there for when they do want to come around, and always have the space always having an open door and that loving space for people to come back to. And that's what we're moving into, and there's no fear in any of this. Like, it's actually, once you see it, it's like a mosquito. It's pretty pathetic, actually. And, even with this mission, it's been like nonstop since I remembered my mission for the past year and a half. It's just been attack after attack after attack. But it's like ninja training. Once you like see it and you know how to, like the light and love is so much more powerful than the lower dimensional energies, and we need those lower dimensional energies. We cannot exist without the lower dimensional energies. And so, all of this is for us to expand and grow and learn, and there's no fear in it. Like we're fine moving forward. But I do believe, quick justice is necessary. The reason that we're in this mess to begin with is that we've allowed these predators to exist in our community. In nature, like nature's our greatest teacher. So when a mama wolf has a being coming after her cubs, she rips their head off. So we need to take back our power. Whatever means you got to do that. You need to protect the vulnerable, the children, the women in the community first and foremost. And whether that's you need to kill these predators, go ahead, and there's no karma in that because you're protecting the vulnerable. So, this is what we need to get back to. We need to get back to our inner power, our warrior essence, and spiritually reconnect with that inner power and inner knowing, and be the protectors and the guardians of the children again, because this is ultimately about the children. And if we didn't give our power away in the first place, we would have never got into this mess.
Absolutely. And that's why I've been wondering for years, because it just seems like, this whole stuff with the children and, the horrible things that have happened. So many people just like refuse to look at it, refuse to see it, or just like, will just like, oh, forget they even know me or have a relationship with me because this is what I'm talking about now. Mm-hmm. And we just can't do that. Like, I admire your strength, because you're like, we've got to stop this and we've got to expose it, and we just can't let this happen. And
we need action too, not just expose, but action moving forward. So, line up a whole bunch of pedophiles in front of me and give me a gun. I have no problem. Like, then I won't even flinch, just like, we got to move on. Quick justice. Let's go. Like, the children is what matters moving forward. And we can't have these predators living next door to us.
Yeah, we can't. Mama bears unite.
Yeah. I love it. And do it with love. I love it too. We can do it with love. The Celtic warriors, they had whole clans of warrior women where, if an enemy was approaching, not only would they be on horseback naked with the paint on and stuff, they'd be purely vulnerable, but they would be beaming out heart-based, like feminine energy. And they trained them like that to beam out this frequency, because what it does is the enemy's expecting aggression, all this lower frequency energy. But when they're hit with this motherly, loving energy, it in a way paralyzes them. Not only you got this beautiful woman on the horse, but they're beaming out this loving essence. And when you're in that heart-centered space, you're intuitive, it's like time slows down, and it's like the Matrix, that scene in the Matrix where he dodges the bullet. It's like we can actually slow down time, and we're one step ahead of the enemy. And so moving forward, we're not going to be in this masculine patriot energy. It's going to be a very, Princess Diana loving heart-based energy, because that's where we're the most powerful. And you can get rid of someone in that energy. And this is what these Celtic women were trained to do. And so they would send them out first on the front lines to the approaching enemy. And, within seconds, the men on the other side would just kind of be stunned. And they would take their arrows and go, so within seconds, done, they're annihilated, and the men wouldn't even have to flinch. So it's like bringing back this natural nature of ours and utilizing it, because, even moving forward in the new earth, we have to have we have to bring back this warrior energy, this guardianship over our vulnerable populations. We're not going to make the same mistakes again.
That's right. I love that. And Teresa says we are activating, upgrading, remembering, healing, regenerating our reality on all aspects. Levels are going forward, so cleanup and healing will not take years. I love that. And we have about 30 people online. So thank you so much for the people that have tuned in. And we're so happy to have you here, Miss Katie. And time flew by really fast. So hopefully we get a chance to talk to you again.
I would be honored to come on again. I just love your energy, and I know you're a big part of the family. So I totally recognize your soul frequency. Yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sending you all so much love and light. Do you want to leave the audience with one last little tidbit for their souls?
Just be excited. We're going into, don't get caught up in the movie, because what we're seeing right now is literally a movie for the people who are still in this MK Ultra state. Don't get caught up and you don't need to know every single thing of the movie, every aspect of it. It doesn't really matter how we get from A to B. It's just know that we know already the end result. And to focus on what you want to manifest and create for yourself, and how you want to change this world, and what you want to add to it and bring, and what gifts you have to share with the collective, because we're all equal. We're all here with specific gifts, and we're here to share that amongst each other like one big mosaic. And with that, we are unstoppable.
That's right. All right, that's wonderful. And that's a great reminder that the movie is not for us. The movie is for the brainwashed, the sleepers.
Love you, sister.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and sending love and light to everybody. Thanks. Bye.